Welcome to a Season 2 bonus episode of T and XP, a couple's cozy gaming podcast. I'm Alexander.
And I'm Erin. This episode is called Turning Your Partner into Your Player 2, or How Alex Went About Turning Erin into a Gamer. We see a lot of content online about guys wishing their wife or girlfriend was a gamer.
Yeah, and the dream is to have a romantic partner who can also lock in and play through the night with you.
One day, maybe. I will never stay up through the night. But while this is really heteronormative and stereotypical, the stereotype does persist. We should just use partner from here on out, maybe. So
yeah.
please excuse us, listeners, if we slip into some stereotypical pronouns.
In this episode, we're going to discuss the ins and outs of encouraging your partner, your significant other, your gender-neutral bae to start gaming. I think it's a really common thing to want to get your partner into the same hobbies as you, and I see a lot of people discussing it both on social media and trying it in real life. I've also seen it done really badly, but I'm not going to start calling people out. I just want to focus on what worked for us personally when it comes to gaming. So our little discussion of getting someone into gaming has 3 parts: prospects, context or background, and engagement. Why don't you start us off with prospects?
Okay, so if you want a chance at doing this at all, you have to examine your motive and how it aligns with your partner's interests. Like, why do you want your partner gaming with you? Do you need an extra in Call of Duty? Like, do you want to share a passion you have with them? Do you want to spend time with them? Everyone's context is different. As I've spoken about way back in episode 1, Alex presented gaming to me as a hobby when I was really stressed and burnt out. Although I may never know his long-term motive unless he confesses during this bonus episode. I really appreciate that his encouragement came from a place about me and looking after me during a rough time.
But that's exactly it. It worked because I thought it was something I thought you'd enjoy and something that once introduced you'd want to continue even without me having to pester you. I think reflecting on this is important because the outcomes might be out of your control. You might, say, love pineapple on pizza, but even the most passionate and expert sales pitch isn't going to change someone's taste buds if they just don't like pineapple to begin with. It's the same with gaming or any other hobby. If your partner doesn't want to engage with it, they're going to get sick of you pushing it too hard.
And a good point for a disclaimer, T and XP, a couples cozy gaming podcast, will not be held liable for broken relationships, friendships, or dreams. We do welcome success stories, though, if you'd like to reach out via our Instagram page.
Okay, but if you know your partner's going to love it, then you still need to think ahead. Are you going to need some more gaming gear? Are you okay with it displacing your normal gaming habits, especially if you're looking at a co-op title? Is your partner usually the voice of reason who tells you to stop playing Stardew Valley and go to bed?
One needs to listen for that to be effective. But I don't know about those late nights, but I do know we try to make sure we do household chores before gaming.
Yeah, we do have a good system of, pushing through X number of chores early on in the weekend so we can really get stuck in later.
It's about balance, baby.
Okay, so motive identified, soul searched, habits explored. You may now progress to what we call stage 2, the context stage.
And what is the context stage, Alex?
I'm so glad you asked, Erin. A bit surprised because you did do the outline for this part, but glad all the same. So considering context covers a couple of key concepts.
That's a lot of C's.
Point is, you need to think about your partner's own gaming history, because that'll determine if they need a few introductory games like cut their teeth on. Let's use you as an example. When you were young, you only played video games with your cousin on holidays. You didn't have a console at home, though you did have some very early PC games.
Yeah, where am I the Wizard's Castle and Commander Keen's fans at?
Retirement homes, I think.
Oh, shush. Wizard's Castle, 1979. That's an old game. That predates us.
So yeah, with limited access to a console and a sister and some cousins to compete with you, you only got exposed to some real classic games and didn't have a lot of hours to sink, compared to someone with, say, a console at home they could play with on the holidays.
True, but you are forgetting the quintessential Australian school experience of after-school care, which I think is called something else these days, where we had a Sega that had a waiting list a mile long for a 10-minute go, and the computer, which was rolled out on wheels and also had a waiting list a mile long. Plus, you had to play in front of all the onlookers who were shouting unhelpful advice at you. Sorry, yeah, you go.
Yeah, I just remember we had it at the library and, like, had to write your name on the list.
Yes,
but the
that
list
kind of
only
thing.
had 10 slots.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, like, gaming was partially defined for me by watching others, not simply playing. And even though I did stop playing, I actually really enjoyed and found myself watching the show Good Game on ABC quite regularly. And it was really sad when it ended, as I really did like hearing, people talk knowledgeably and passionately about games. It was a cool show.
Okay, so a little more than just gaming during your holidays. But you stopped playing, as you've told me a lot of girls do, around your teenage years.
Yeah, I guess this is very elder millennial of me, but it was when games went 3D. Games suddenly they looked a lot more intimidating and harder to control.
Context is king when considering getting your partner into gaming. Gaming mechanics that you've played hundreds, possibly thousands of hours practicing don't necessarily come naturally to others who haven't sunk that sort of time in. I think it's really easy to forget how much presumed knowledge there is in gaming. So I can pick up a controller and I'll immediately know that the left stick is for movement and the right is for camera. Or I can look at Hollow Knight and instantly know, okay, those mask icons are going to be hit points, that count as obviously currency, and if I can't reach an area, I'm not doing anything wrong, it's probably just there for when I have an ability later on. There is so much presumed knowledge that you don't even think about. Other people aren't going to have that same context. And of course, people are smart and people learn really quickly, but that initial experience isn't really going to be fun. It's going to be frustrating for them if they're not familiar with all these conventions of game design. And that initial experience is so important. We'll talk a bit more about gaming literacy in a moment.
But shout out to, Hollow Knight and Silksong, two Australian games, but also known for being ridiculously hard as well.
So now we come to the second part of context, which is your partner's current interests.
Oh, I don't know, Alex. Do women have interests?
We said we wouldn't be heteronormative.
Oh, true. Okay. Okay, but for every switched-on person out there like yourself who understands their partner is a person outside of their immediate relationship, their job, their being the person they cohabit or parent with, there are definitely some people who struggle to see their partners are people with interests outside of the roles they serve in each other's lives.
Sad but true. But if you don't know your partner's basic interests, you probably have bigger issues than getting them into gaming.
Like getting them into therapy.
That would be an excellent start, yeah.
Getting yourself into therapy.
Yeah, couples therapy.
Yeah. All the therapy. Everyone should go to therapy.
So let's assume that a person knows or can think and find out the interests of their partner. You then want to think how those interests actually overlap with gaming.
But you brought me Unpacking as my first game. Does that just mean you think I'm into moving house?
Yeah, moving house is one of the most relaxing and enjoyable activities known to humanity.
It's true. I think that if you looked up like lists and articles about, like non-stressful things for humans, I think that would be on a list of top 10 least stressful things for human beings.
Okay, really quick segue, but
That is a segue.
Oh,
Segue on the segue.
Yeah.
It's a dim alley at this point.
Overcooked and Overcooked 2,
Yeah.
the most stressful experiences in human history.
Mm-hmm.
The follow-up game to that was about moving house because, a commercial kitchen during an earthquake wasn't stressful enough.
So true.
Okay, no, getting back on track though. Unpacking. When I was thinking about a game for you, I thought of a few things. I thought of something with low-demand mechanics because I hadn't really seen you play much, and I knew that learning an action game with hyper controls probably wasn't going to be helpful if you're already feeling stressed. Unpacking is a point-and-click game, and it has no timers and no real correct way to play beyond having a few items with specific places when you're unpacking the boxes. I think a really important consideration is that non-gameplay elements like story and like art are going to have a much greater impact on a non-gamer. I know you like a story, and Unpacking has a beautiful story told only through objects and environments, and it has some lovely pixel art and has some great sound design. And it also had the nice addition of being developed in Brisbane.
By Witchbeam?
By Witchbeam, yeah. I point as I knew you'd like that it was an Australian developer. And the amazing thing about engagement is that once you enjoyed Unpacking, you started looking yourself for other games.
Yeah, I got my own Steam account and got games like Gris, but also a lot of point-and-click games with puzzles or discovery at the heart of the game. I do play a lot of games in areas or styles that interest me. I played a lot of games about art and artists. I like a good puzzle game, from the really simple to really big head scratches. I love a forage, although admittedly that was not a hobby I had before gaming.
Yeah, no, you went rifling through dumpsters. Yeah.
No, there was no mushrooms for this particular Erin as well. So,
Great reference to Australian listeners there with the whole
Yes.
Erin mushroom
yeah.
saga. Yeah.
Oh, and another interest of mine, true crime. So there you go.
Yeah, there.
But I am really drawn to like rich narrative and beautiful artwork. And I know that's very cliche, I'm not like other cozy gamers, but I've certainly played some combat and action games as well. But I've just never warmed up to the idea of like shoot 'em up style games.
You did warm up to Split Fiction.
I guess, but like, is this your confession of the episode? Like you knew the devs at Hazelight Studios were making a new game and you were like, quick, I only have 3 years to make this work. And so you went from Unpacking to Stardew Valley to like, I don't know what's between Stardew Valley and Split Fiction, like Psychonauts. But obviously then you got me into It Takes Two, which is also by Hazelight Studios and considered one of the best 2-player games of all times. Although I do seem to remember a very clunky first playthrough of that game the first time I played through it. But like, is that just a big conspiracy to get me into Split Fiction gaming?
It is not. This was all genuine motivations.
Oh, I wanted a big episode confession.
But yeah, point is people have to start somewhere, and everyone's somewhere is going to be a little bit different. I think this is why the previous context step is so important. So in your case, you had some distant background, and you had to relearn how to game on games like Unpacking and Gris. There's no one type or single list of games that are going to be perfect for new gamers.
If you turned me into It Takes Two without some training games, I probably would have spat the dummy a few times. Remembering like multiple buttons and button combos and all that did not come back to me all at once, that's for sure.
Yeah, but for some people, It Takes Two could be a great first game to play with a partner.
Yeah, I
Like,
agree.
if your partner's done so Mario Galaxy and is going to be really familiar with that, double jump then dash kind of mechanic, that's going to be an easy start. For us, I think Stardew Valley was great, as there's so many options for what you do each day. You can introduce things like combat or crafting really gently, and you don't have to do any task alone.
Because you have a player too.
You have a player too. It does kind of hint at a potential pitfall of moving too fast, or not really thinking about engagement from your partner's point of view. I think one of the biggest mistakes experienced players can make when introducing someone to gaming is choosing games that they personally love and are passionate about, rather than choosing a game which is going to be genuinely beginner-friendly. So fast-paced combat or complicated controls or any system that relies on too much gaming literacy can overwhelm new players immediately. So like, I love curry.
Go on.
I love curry, but I'm not going to make you a fan of it by introducing you to a very spicy vindaloo as your first ever curry dish.
That is so British of you. But are you kind of saying that I'm like the Sag Paneer of gaming?
I am saying you are the dal tadka of gaming.
Oh, I am no longer sure where this analogy is going, but I do know what we're having for dinner.
This is the second food analogy, incidentally. We probably should have eaten before we did this. What I'm trying to say, in my own kind of, elliptical fashion, is that if you push someone towards your favorite game without considering, everything I just mentioned, prospects, context or background, and engagement, you're just throwing them right in the deep end, and you're going to risk frustrating them and losing their interest before it's even started.
Yeah, okay, so we're kind of getting all zone of proximal development here. Like, I need a challenge to grow, but I need a high level of engagement, support, and safety nets to stay in the sweet spot. And if you push too hard, you lose the growth.
Look, that simile is lacking some of the clinical language of my curry metaphor. No, I know that's a really highly studied topic. Also, just out of context, you sounded a bit like you're getting into like Manosphere podcasting, incidentally.
It's all about the zone of proximal development, bro. Chicks love that.
Chicks do love that, though.
Okay, but I do like how you use the term gaming literacy before. There really are a set of gaming rules that are invisible to people who have stopped gaming. Who have never stopped gaming. I use the lovely example, and I don't think they'd mind, from Stardrop Tea, a Stardew Valley podcast with Shirley and Hillary. And I think it was Shirley who said on the very first day on the farm in Stardew Valley, Mayor Lewis said, "You can sell things here in the chest and I'll empty it each night." And she thought, sweet, But why would I want him on my property every night? So she went and sold everything at Pierre's General Store or Willie's Fish and Bait Shop. And for like a year, that is how they sold everything, because it didn't occur to them that that character saying, like, you can do this is the game's way of saying, you should do this. This is how it works. And I think non-gamers don't necessarily know that the shiny thing means you click on it, or that there's a run or a fast travel option. I think that's important.
Yeah, there's so many conventions which you just stop seeing and you kind of instinctually know when, you've got a few gaming hours.
Yeah.
I think another common mistake is hovering too much, explaining every mechanic and correcting every mistake, or treating the experience like a tutorial instead of a shared activity. We obviously focus on cozy gaming, but any hobby works best when there's room for curiosity and experimentation and fun. The goal shouldn't be to convert someone into a gamer overnight. It should be creating a comfortable, enjoyable experience that they actually want to return to. This is something I see done really poorly with a lot of board games and tabletop games like Warhammer and stuff. That there's way too much focus on trying to teach people, an optimal play style, or like winning the game or anything like that, rather than just giving them some space to like have a bit of agency and make some mistakes and just exercise curiosity and enjoy the game.
Hot take. People love emotional safety.
Yeah, people love emotional safety.
They do, yeah. You really are patient and don't make me feel bad when I fumble a jump or something like that for the 20th time. Like, you're not about optimization as well. I honestly get mad at myself way before you ever seem mad at me. Not that I think you've ever seemed mad at me, but yeah. But that does remind me of a guy I was seeing a bit before I met you, and he tried to get me into gaming via Zelda by just watching me play a level he was already on, and I hated it. And he stayed and hovered, but he didn't offer any helpful tips, and that was kind of just as bad. And I wasn't up on Zelda or what it was, and he just sort of assumed I would learn to swim whilst in the water. And I think Zelda was not the right water to throw me into, because I just really resented being watched while I fumbled and figured out combat and movement, and it really just felt kind of gross to me. I felt really patronized instead of supported.
I hope when you refer to water, you mean like figurative water, because if you're talking like the water temple in that Zelda game, like that is psychopathic behavior, putting a new player in there. Anyway, sucks to be him. I know I said I wouldn't call people out, but here we are, yeah.
Indeed. What about some actual gaming recommendations?
I like to think our episode catalogue is a great place to start.
It is, but I wouldn't play them in order.
No.
Like, Dave the Diver is considerably harder than, say, Tiny Bookshop.
Well, we've mentioned it quite a lot, but I'm going to mention it again. Unpacking. It's point and click. It's a lovely story. Boom. It's a game that we've gotten so many people into gaming through.
Yeah, true. And maybe to reignite side-scrolling gaming literacy, I'd recommend Gris. It's way more deep and interesting and beautiful than side-scrollers of the 90s, and far less frustrating than old big-box side-scrollers like Mario and Sonic.
I think this was an issue when Hollow Knight came out, and there were people trying to get their partner into Hollow Knight, which, again, beautiful, amazing game. It is not going to happen as your first gaming experience. Like you said, Gris is going to be a much better bet. Well, I think it's okay to look up game walkthroughs and wikis online if you get stuck. Not everyone knows that you can do this, so I'd also suggest avoiding any games which are going to require it. I think Don't Starve Together is probably the big candidate here.
Yeah, also not a cozy game.
Not a cozy game.
Not at all, no. I guess something like A Little to the Left is a short and satisfying organizer/puzzle game with lots of pattern recognition and a nice dose of humour. And if 3D graphics are something that your player 2 hasn't done a lot of, I reckon games like Mail Time or Letters to Arralla are fun and a really good introduction to the wonderful topic of why are we so obsessed with mail delivery and cozy games.
I think this is another topic for a 3 of a Kind bonus episode.
Absolutely. What about 2-player games for new players?
Well, one of the first games we played together was Stardew Valley, but it's important to note that even though you share resources and money in that game, that you sort of do a parallel play to each other. Sometimes your stories are overlapping, and sometimes you're off on their mines or they're farming or whatever. So I'd actually suggest something a little more intertwined, like Spiritfarer, which we just closed Season 2 with. It does have a bit more platforming, but it's got beautiful art and a wonderful story and just so many things to draw people in other than just game mechanics.
And although we've played it and it was good and it gets recommended a lot, Overcooked is a stressful game, especially if you want to play it for like perfect 3-star levels. So I would recommend starting 2-player like chaotic fun gaming with something like Phogs, or listening to our 3 of a Kind bonus episode from last season, which was called Silly 2-Player Fun.
I think there are a lot of game recommendations out there for two-player games, but I think it's worth circling back to motive. I play games solo that I know Evan would never like.
And vice versa.
Yeah. And when we play together, yes, it's about mutually enjoying the game, but we play together because, we like each other's company.
Yeah.
We don't play to make the other person feel bad or to always win against them if it's a competitive game.
Yeah, and cozy games are especially good entry points because they encourage exploration and creativity and routine rather than competition or sometimes precision. And I guess to stress your point earlier, beginner-friendly games create emotional safety. They don't make players feel rushed, embarrassed, or bad at games. And I know it's going to sound a bit lame, but I do want to say how grateful I am to you putting me onto gaming as an adult. I might never be like mic'd up playing high-stress games or anything like that, but it has become a really lovely hobby that we can enjoy together and apart. And I just really like engaging with games as texts to explore and analyze and appreciate.
Nah, you're too sweet. But I don't know, I just really love, obviously, gaming with you, but I love that you have found this thing where you can explore it on your own and you have your own gaming interests.
Yeah.
Done right, the ideal progression into video games can make anyone think, maybe I am a video gamer. Consider your own motives if you are the established gamer. Consider the context or background of both game mechanics and your partner's game literacy. And finally, consider their personal likes and interests.
Now go hug your player too, and stay cozy.
Like finding a hobby you enjoy so much together, you start a podcast.